Hello, good evening everyone. My name's Chris. I'm a creative technologist, and I have to start with a little bit of a confession. Now, this isn't really a talk about art, and it's not really a talk about technology or interactivity. So normally when I do one of these things, I'd show you this slide with lots of different technologies, and I would talk for about 7.5 hours non-stop. I like this stuff, I get quite excited. This isn't any of those talks. This is a talk about making something. And I like using the word adventure with my students when I'm working with them or working with clients as well. Getting them to think about their own personal journeys they might go through. Thinking how they change, how they evolve when they make something, whether they make an installation work or a bit of research or even a TEDx talk. What did they go through? What did they change when they think of that? So if you'll indulge me, I'll take you through an adventure I went on with my group at Plymouth University, i-DAT. And we were commissioned by the Tate Modern for their new opening of their new extension to develop This Is Where We Are. This was an installation working with the Tate Exchange. And my boss, the wise old wizard Mike, and B, the creative director, came along, pulled me in for a coffee and told me of this big quest we were going to go on. We were going to make a 3.5 meter tall interactive sculpture which would listen to everything that was going on around it. It would understand what's happening at the Tate and what's being said on social media, and it would reflect that back into the space. So it would start lighting up, it would change sounds, it would change behavior. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be able to walk up to it and touch it, and you're going to be able to talk to it through a chatbot interface. And you could be able to feel it and listen to it. Oh, and by the way, there's also going to be these robots that run around outside it and run after people. Okay, quest accepted. Let's do this. We've got the list and things. So we start planning out and we start figuring out what the team is and start modeling everything together. So we start building our sculpture out of these polygon tiles. And with that plan, with that idea, we take it down to TR2, hand it over to them and go, make that bigger. And luckily they didn't tell us to go away. And through a series of nice action shots, they built out our frame. They created it and gave us the space and gave us time in TR2 to start applying the technology, adding everything together. And now we start getting the fellowship together. Now we start building the team with Simon on the touch environment, Mike and Gary on the sound, and me in the middle of it with the Raspberry Pi in the corner, controlling everything and doing all the AIs and behaviors. So we start building and making this thing, and we start gathering into the Tate Modern, bringing our stuff with the van and the GoPros, and you'll see the slides later, and it's all starting to come together. It's all working. It's all basically there, but something's not right. There's a dragon that needs slaying. There's something not quite with it. And it's not the Tate themselves, it's not the clients, because they're looking after us, they're keeping us fed, they're being brilliant. And it's not the technology, because that's working, and that's responding to things that's going on. So our sculpture, the thing we made, was starting to respond to something that was going on outside. And we pulled out our phones, we had a look at Twitter, and we realized what was going on. We were up the week this happened. I think you remember the Battle of the Thames, where 2 boats of flotillas started going and having a bit of a shouting match at each other. That was being picked up and reflected. And along with a protest and other things that were going on, we were starting to see, okay, this is working. So what's the issue? What's the problem here? And it's not those things. And I've started to think and realize it's actually our own perfection that's the dragon we need to slay. Because in this space, in this time, we're not really getting this opportunity again. We're at an opening of a major new extension. We're here in prime space with 150,000 people ready to walk up the space and look at what we're doing. And it starts to get, oh, it's our anxiety, it's our issues. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, so we need to start thinking. We are thinking, what's there? And in the story, you would normally get, in your adventure film, you'd probably get a bit of advice or a hint at something that would take you through to the end. And for me, my hint and bit of advice was a conversation I had with Lee. Lee is the builder of the robot part of this project. So these were little robots that ran around after the audience and kind of ran them over. But these started in our minds. These started at the start of the project as being these really complicated things that were going to be tracked in the space, and we're going to have some really interesting AI behaviors. And Lee kind of ditched all of that. He made them really simple. He just made them an Arduino, some servers, a really simple bit of code, and some phone batteries powering them on. And I decided to have a discussion with him. I said, are you sure? This is not the thing we made. This is not the thing we were agreeing on. And talking with him, it clicked. And what he said to me was that you know about how complex this is. You know about everything that's going on. But your audience don't. Your audience don't know that these aren't as technically competent or technically difficult or as advanced as you think they should be. All they know is there's some things running about on the floor as they come upstairs. And if one of the robots goes off and tries to go down the stairs after someone, you just pick it up, bring it back over, and give it a nice telling off. You kind of just start performing with the technology. And kind of the way you walk up and touch something, or you talk to the thing you're building, talk to the thing that's there, you're kind of filling in the gaps with your own performance. It's a little bit like how Steve Jobs demonstrated that original iPhone. He was going through a very specific set of circumstances, but his performance with it was the thing that carried it through, the thing that got people excited, even though it was just a prototype, it was just a beta. So with that, we start thinking, okay, let's get this all together. Let's just make sure it works and it's robust, and let's use our own performance. Let's walk up and touch things and invite people into the space. And we get there. We get to the point where it's ready and it's open. And after our week-long installation process, we can open. We can open to the space. We can open to the stage and invite everyone into this space. Now, this thing we made was listening to people. You could touch it, and it was following people's hands about. And it was leaving these messages and memories on social media where people had walked up to and touched something. And it set a nice counterpoint to everything else that was in the Tate. Because while the Tate Modern is a modern art gallery, not everything's very interactive or digital. So when you have a bunch of people who have come to this new art gallery opening and walking up the space and walking into something and realizing, oh, I'm allowed to play with this, that's something quite magical. So you invite them to come and touch, and you invite them to come and talk to it or play around with it. And he really started to respond and get excited about what was happening. These little boids, these little characters that float through the sculpture, while they slightly melted our Unity programmer to, his brain didn't really work after we made him get that working in 3D. These little boys are just people's thoughts and emotions that are drifting through this space. And they're affecting the overall emotion of the sculpture. So when the lifts broke, it kind of got angry with us. And the robots were working with the children, almost performing with them as well, bringing them into a space, making them excited. And of course, because it's an interactive piece, and there's a nice little, very expensive LCD screen behind the thing we've made, doing the interpretation, and that's not an interactive touchscreen. And of course, all the kids were running up, touching and making lovely, brilliant, greasy smear marks on a very, very expensive LCD screen. But then I started thinking, we're coming to the end, and we have to now start thinking about packing up and reflecting on what we've done. And kind of at this point, it's the journey back. It's the journey back to the Shire with your changes in space, and thinking, what's the message I'm going to bring back to Plymouth, to TED or something? And here it starts to become something different. Because the thing itself is now packed up. It was only there for 3 days. It's now put away. It's in some storage somewhere. And it's not a thing anymore. So what's the thing that's left behind? The thing I created, the thing I got to work on and be a part of. And it's not the metalwork or the code, because that goes rusty or obsolete. I started to realize that all these interactions, these moments and memories, these exciting things were the things that really mattered. And I say I'm a creative technologist, and then I realized, what is the thing I'm creating? Actually, it's not the technology. It's not the art. It's the thing that's left over. It's the posts, it's the memories, it's the things that stick in people's mind. And towards the end, I'll show you these two things that resonated with me and will stick with me forever. Is when it responded to someone asking about love, and it changed its sound, it changed its lighting, and really just fired people's eyes up. And baby Otis relaxing, not unlike after working on this for a couple of months, just lying underneath it, watching people's thoughts and people's social media flying past them. And maybe that's the thing I bring back. Maybe that's the thing, after you've cleared out the space, after you've moved on, what you've left behind is those moments and memories. And those are what stick with people. And those are the things you're engineering, the things you're creating. If you're making an app, you're connecting people to other people. If you're making a website, you're providing a service, but you're making things happen. You're giving people emotions and memories and things that will stick with them for the rest of their life. And I hope that's something you can take with you after today. And thank you very much.